talk about Taylor Swift. I mean, I'm not on board I'm not a Swiftie. Is that what they call them? There's no question she has talent, but I'm not a fan. But people have described these Swifties as comprising or very cultish, cult-like. What's going on with Taylor Swift? Are you seeing a lot of these occult symbolism symbols in her concerts and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. There's, Taylor Swift's an interesting case study in what I get into, because she's been on my radar since I started blogging back in 2011. And it's a weird thing because she actually grew up in the same sort of town that I grew up in, and my mother loves Taylor Swift. So when I talk about Taylor Swift and point out symbolism, she gets upset. She's like, because my mom, she's a very God-fearing Christian woman, and she's always like, "Do you think she worships the devil? Like, what's going on?" I'm like, "Mom, like, I don't know." I was like, "Here's the thing: is like some of the symbolism is there. I don't know that she's behind it. I do think in Hollywood and entertainment industries there are controllers who direct these videos, and they push certain symbols for a variety of reasons. Is Taylor Swift a pawn in that game? I think so. I don't know. I'm the same way. I'm not trying to take anything away. Her music's, it's not for me. It's not my jam, but she's good. She's talented, right? I hear a lot of her songs, and I think, yeah, that's a good song. It's not my particular taste, but that's fine. So I try not to dissuade people from enjoying the music that they like to hear. A lot of people would sort of push that narrative, and that's, again, not me. But she has been on my radar for a very, very long time. And this goes back to 2009 when she was a country star for a couple years, and she won the Best Female Artist Award at the 2009 MTV VMAs. And Kanye West infamously went up on stage, stole the mic, interrupted her speech, and it was a big embarrassment for everybody involved. And by the way, that night, Kanye West was overheard, and this was reported on Gawker. He was overheard talking about how his mother died chasing this Hollywood dream. And at the time, my second book I ever wrote was called Sacrifice Magic Behind the Mic. And I talked about hip hop, the Illuminati, and all this stuff. And I talked about this event back then. And I thought, well, that's really strange. Is it possible that Kanye West is telling us that his mother was a literal blood sacrifice in exchange for fame? And I've been roasted so many times over the years. It's kind of funny that since 2020, people have now been more receptive to some of these concepts, because I actually did several appearances on Sirius XM to talk about the hip hop book. And the listeners hated me, but but I was posting these ideas back, as early as 2014. I was talking about this, and fast forward to I think it was just last year or the year before, Kanye West, who's been saying all kinds of different things to the media, he actually said it on camera. They got on camera that he says, "My mama was sacrificed," and then he goes on to talk about Michael Jordan, Bill Cosby, Dr. Dre, and he says, "Out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing. It feels like it's some kind of way to control us." So I mean, literally, Kanye West said that this happened to his mother. I wish Kanye West would sort of, if he knows secrets, I wish he would reveal them to us in a more specific manner. But anyway, so he was part of this whole humiliation ritual with Taylor Swift. And a lot of people say, well, what does that mean exactly? And the best example of why this is a thing, there was a study I found by Roy Baumeister and Kristen Summer at Case Western Reserve University. And it was a study into satanic ritual abuse, UFO abductions, and the effects on the psyche. And I've got a passage here. I'll just read it verbatim, just 2 sentences. It says, "The paradox of voluntarily constructing oneself in a victim's role, including humiliation, helplessness, and suffering, is central to all 5." And it's talking about the different aspects of, abductions and SRA and all that stuff. It says, "People seem to do this in order to transcend and transform their identities, in particular to cultivate relationships with powerful, often desirables. Although self-esteem is lost in terms of the old identity, it can be gained within the context of the new identity." And that's precisely what happened with Taylor Swift. She went from being a country star to a pop star, which, again, not very satanic or nefarious, but the fact remains that what I'm saying is that there are people who study all of these concepts of synchromysticism, symbolism, and playing with energy, and they know that they can put on this high profile ritual, this mass ritual, because these are our modern day gods and goddesses. We're experiencing what the Romans had with their pantheon of different gods, and that's our celebrities, is our version. That's why tabloid magazines are so successful and such. And over the years, I've watched many of Taylor Swift's videos, and I've seen symbolism that supports all of this. She had a video for a track called "Look What You Made Me Do," and I pointed out that she was doing symbolism of her arms crossed like an X, and this is a symbolism for Osiris rising. This goes back to Tex Mars wrote a book called Codex Magica, where I learned this. And it's the idea, this goes back to the ancient mystery religions of Osiris. And, it's about raising Osiris from the dead with magic. And you see her in the bathtub, which is again symbolism of the passage of the goddess. It's another Kabbalah idea of a cleansing ritual. Then you see there's more controversial claims, like she's covered in diamonds. And Kathy O'Brien wrote a book called Transformation, and it was her experience. I'm sure you're familiar. It's her experience as I'll be careful with the words I use here. I don't want to get you banned. But it's her experience in these circles of people who were doing abuse of a variety of kinds. And she said that there was a thing called diamond programming, where you had various politicians and even presidents who were taking part in this abuse of people, including herself. Then you had there was a couple other things related to cats that we won't talk about it here, but the whole idea is that from the video I saw, to me, I said, well, this is her rebirth into the occult. That's why she's seen with the Osiris Rising X, and she takes us in the video through various alter egos of Taylor Swift. And in the video, she literally says, she answers the phone, she says, "I'm sorry, the old Taylor is dead." And it's the idea, and it takes us full circle back to the 2009 humiliation ritual on MTV. She's showing us continuous rebirths and new personas to try to keep her sound and her creativity fresh. And that's what the Eras concert is all about. It's about going through her different personalities, like a dissociative identity disorder. And I think that's what's the most interesting. And what's really curious to me, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but at the time, because I started blogging in 2011, started podcasting in 2014. The same time I started a YouTube channel. It was very successful. I always cry about this. For people who already know my story, I'm sorry, but I always cry about this story. I was doing really well with YouTube. I got up to 75,000 subscribers. I posted this video where I discussed the symbolism of that Taylor Swift "Look What You Made Me Do" video in a factual manner. Again, I'm not out here telling people don't listen to her or she worships the devil or whatever. People say crazy stuff about people sometimes. And it was going, I posted it at night, woke up the next morning, it had 25,000 views, and they shut it down. And her management company, it was called Big Dog Media or something like that. They filed a complaint against it, and they shut down my whole YouTube channel. And that was it's called Big Machine Records. That's what it's called. And that told me that, because there's many videos of people talking about Taylor Swift on YouTube. It wasn't like I was the only one. And it tells me that maybe there's elements of that they want to shut down. And
you were over the target. You were over the target.
I mean, I can't help but think that. And I'm trying to not be too, a lot of conspiracy people today, we've got chips on our shoulders where we're like, see, we were right this whole time, and you guys, because now everyone's talking about this stuff when they see all this sort of satanic imagery in music and fashion and all this stuff, that people are saying, man, maybe these conspiracy people were right, So it's kind of a weird place to be in.
What about is she into numerology?
Yeah, she's heavy into it, and she's not bashful about it. And again, I think it's one of these innocuous things that people don't really know is an occult practice, kind of like astrology. Just seems like something people are interested in, but it really is an occult practice. And she in particular is obsessed with the number 13. She actually at 2024 Grammy, she won her 13th Grammy, and she, was going on and on about how 13 was her lucky number. And there was a book I read called Occult Holidays and Sabbaths, and it tells us that the Bible assigned the number 13 as the meaning of rebellion against constituted authority, and it represents depravity of rebelling against God. And again, we'll go back to the first statement we talked about on this show. Satanism, it doesn't have to be this sort of dark, pitchfork in the horns thing. It can be as simple as turning the will against God and towards the self. And you see the number 13 show up in many ways. Like the number 6. So like if you look at the number 6 and the number 7, the number 6 represents the number of man. 7 represents the number of divine perfection. And when one climbs this Jacob's tower towards self-perfection, self-deification, number 13 is that state of divine perfection where a man has become divine. So the number 13 plays a role in all those concepts. Now, does Taylor Swift know this? I don't know. I mean, the 13 is a lucky number, people say, so it could be as simple as that for her. But then there's a lot of other aspects. I mean, depending on how kind of paranoid you want to get about things, like her next album is going to be her 11th album, and 11 is the number for magic. It comes from Aleister Crowley, who assigned a K to the end of magic. So when he spells magic, he spells it MAGICK because he's differentiating it from stage magic. And the number 11, it is a combination of 5 and 6, 5 being the pentagram, 6 being the hexagram. And this comes from the concepts of that hermetic axiom, as above, so below, where 5 is the microcosm, 6 is the macrocosm. So Crowley, he encapsulates this with a symbol that they call the unicursal hexagram. It's a unionization of as above, so below, which actually just means man becomes God. But yeah, so anyways, her 11th album is coming out, and she's releasing it on April 19th, which is the start of a supposed occult blood sacrifice holiday called the Beltane Festival, which leads up to Valpurgis Night. So we're talking about April 19th to May 1st. And it's the highest holiday in the Druid witch calendar. It's important to the Church of Satan because I think the Church of Satan celebrates 3 holidays. It's one's own birthday, which again, self-deification, self-gratification. And to clarify this a bit more, because I want to make sure I'm not leaving the listener feeling weird about anything. I'm not saying you can't celebrate your own birthday. Of course you can celebrate your birthday. But Anton LaVey, who was, the founder of the Church of Satan, he celebrated that as a satanic holiday because it is the concept of self-deification is the idea. So the birthday, Samhain, which is, Halloween is the other holiday. And then the third holiday is Valpurgis Night. And she just happens to be releasing her 11th album on the day that lead up, which is supposed to be, 12 days of blood sacrifices all the way up to Valpurgis Night.